Alright, WWE, that's strike 3. You're out.
See No Evil 2.
Hello everybody, my name is Mr. Hat, and today we're going over See No Evil 2, directed by the Soska twins. Directed by females, you don't get that enough in horror movies. And this movie came out in 2014, 8 years after the original in 2006, if you can call it original. It's basically like Norman Bates on steroids, except he doesn't think he's his mother, but he's taking orders from his mother. Kind of the same thing, very similar. But anyways, this one takes place 8 years later, and we got Jacob Goodnight, who's being transported to the morgue where there's a birthday party for our main character, Amy, played by Danielle Harris, and they're having a birthday party at the morgue, but then all these victims come in, including the so-called, the dead serial killer. But he's not dead. So basically, we got an uninvited guest to the party who's a major party crasher, and let's get into this film. Let's start with the positives that I like about this movie. First off, Danielle Harris. You can't hate her ever, no matter what crappy movie she's in. She's awesome. Hatchet 2, Hatchet 3. Even though I wasn't a big fan of the Mary Beth actress change, I don't know what was going on with that series, why they had to change that main person, but whatever. I love her in that series. I love her in Halloween 4 and 5, of course, and Blood Night, this. Whenever she's in the movie, it goes up a couple points, at least 1 point. We even got Tamara, or Ashley from Final Destination 3 in this movie. She's just the same character, basically, except we don't see her boobs. There's no nudity at all in this movie, so just letting you know. Kane is way more buff in this movie, which doesn't make sense if it's taking place the day after the events of Part 1, why his arms are more jacked and huge. So yeah, you can't control that. It's just life. He got bigger in real life. It's 8 years later, so it's not like he was gonna like shrink down for this film. He's not that dedicated to the role, but I like that I like it. I like that he's more buff. He's more intimidating, as if he needed to be more intimidating. He's 7 feet tall, for crying out loud. He's pretty intimidating. I like that he updates his look. He's still got the same shirt on, but it's all shredded. But he puts like a black apron on, and he has a clear surgical like face mask on. Those masks they put on like burn victims' faces or whatever. Just that surgical clear mask. It's on the cover. You'll see it. And he gets his own little pimped out machete tool that I don't think exists. Why would it? Seriously, it's even in Halloween 6 when Michael Myers, before he kills that whole room of people, he just goes over the surgical table, sees a machete, picks it up, and you're like, what purpose does that serve in surgery? Like, alright, we need to amputate you. Bam! There's a character in this movie who's a paraplegic, so immediately he has a major disadvantage, but you're like, why is he a paraplegic? Why is that important? I'll tell you why, so we can get this little scene where he gets a hook in his leg, and you're like, oh, he can't feel it. Funny. That's the only reason he's a paraplegic. Just so they could, like, set that up and be like, look, he can't feel it. Lucky him. But he feels the other shit that happens. I like that this movie at least attempts to, like, build characters. I mean, we got the typical, like, the guy is too chicken shit to ask the girl out, and the other guy's like, why won't you just ask her out? Trying to be, like, a wingman, but not really. But I like that the boy kisses the girl towards the end, because, they're like, we're about to die, so let's kiss. Man, this movie tries a little bit in the first act to like build these characters. You got the brother who just wants what's best for his sister, and he's like 2 feet taller than Danielle Harris, so he got the good genes in that family. He's way tall and she's way short, so whose genes? Maybe the mom was short and the dad was tall. I don't know. But the other characters, there's really no arc to them at all. You got the girl who's like, hitting on the guy, the brother, and the brother's like not into it, but then he doesn't want her, but then he does. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, they're trying to attempt some sort of character building, so I'll give them props for that. But it doesn't work for me, really. So I like that this movie pulls a Nightmare on Elm Street and Psycho, where when there's like 15 minutes left in the film, spoiler alert, I guess. Yeah, we're going to do some spoiler discussions, especially when I get into my negatives. But the final girl in this movie is not the final girl. She's not the last to go. So I really like that. That was like a real shock. So I like that something actually surprised me in this movie. Because everything up to that was just paint by numbers, regular generic stuff. And I guess that's just what WWE does. Leprechaun Origins was very generic, and this just felt generic until that. And I was like, oh, something new, something that surprised me. And I will say there are some cool shots in this movie. It's visually stunning in some parts. And the whole movie is a one location thing. This is a one location horror movie. That's usually how horror movies are, especially when they're low budget. They're always just one location, and it was fun. There's lots of like slow motion shots, things like breaking in slow motion, just things set up to be stylistic. And it was okay. I liked that they at least tried to make this movie look good. If they weren't going to try to, make an actual good story, they could at least make it look good. And they did a good job of that. Alright, now before we go into those negatives, let's go over my awards, shall we? I think easily the hottest chick in this film is Danielle Harris, aka Amy. Love her outfit, love just her in general. She's awesome. And the best scene, I guess, will go to the wheelchair guy Holden, who gets hooked in the leg. He doesn't feel it, but he's being dragged. It's a scene that pays homage to the first film, so gotta give it props for that. It was pretty entertaining, some tension there. Now let's go over the things that are wrong about this movie. First up, it just doesn't feel necessary. That first movie was one of those rare horror movies nowadays that actually ended with a dead bad guy being fucking dead. He falls from like the 30th floor of a hotel, crashes through this glass roof like garden area. I don't know what the proper name for that place is called. I don't know, just a flower garden. I don't know what the fuck that place was. But he crashes through glass. Glass goes up through his chest, through his heart. We see a fucking like in his body shot of glass going through his heart. So he's dead. Not to mention the giant hole in his face. So yeah, he's fucking dead. And then this movie starts with him like, in the back of the ambulance, and they're like, "Why are we trying to revive him?" And they're like doing, they have like the ECG and like the shock paddles. And I like that the EMT was like, "Why are we even doing this? Just let this fucker die." It reminded me of like the end of Sleepaway Camp 3, if you've seen that. Spoiler, I'm spoiling everything. But yeah, I don't feel like this is a necessary sequel. We didn't get like an expansion of the character or like the backstory or anything like really new about him. It was just like, now he's immortal. That's it. Like that's the new update, because he does not fucking die. It's ridiculous. And he's confirmed dead for hours, and then he just gets up. All the body motor skills and everything's still there. It's like when you're dead for hours, you're losing a lot of brain cells. So if he did wake up, he would wake up retarded or a vegetable. So yeah, I mean, I'm not a scientist. I don't know too much about the brain, but I've heard when you're dead for hours, even if you came back miraculously, you wouldn't really be the same. But that's just a nitpick. I got a lot of nitpicks, but the biggest problem with this movie is that it doesn't feel like a necessary sequel. It's just not necessary, and I hate that you took a character that was mortal, a human being, and you're making him this super freaking Victor Crowley thing, except there's like hardly any gore in this movie too. So you got all these characters thrown in for this birthday party just to be cannon fodder, which is, it's typical horror movie stuff. This is what like horror fans want. They don't want character development. They don't want good characters. They just want to see guts and people die in creative ways. But you don't even get that in this movie. There's 2 kills that I'll say are interesting. Just like, oh, that's okay. But that's it. Everything else is off camera. The wheelchair guy, off camera. Like, the build up to it, like, oh, he's being dragged towards him, and then it, like, cuts away, and it's like, oh, what the fuck? And then when you see, like, the aftermath, there's, like, you can't even tell what exactly happened to the body. Like, okay, I see blood on his chest, but I don't see anything really. Even Carter, like, when Carter, the hipster-looking dude, he gets killed and put in like the box in the wall, but they pull his body out, and it's again like the aftermath we get to see, and it's like, what happened to him? I don't know. So it's like, if you're gonna throw cannon fodder my way, make it interesting. Just go balls to the wall. He's immortal now, this killer, so just make him do crazy shit. They gave him this crazy ass weapon, and he does not anything real interesting with it. Just like a neck slice, and that's seriously, a neck slicing was like the best kill in this movie, which I'll get to later in my awards for the best kill, but that was the only interesting one. So in the gore department, this movie is lackluster. And yeah, the character is very lackluster. Here's a nitpick. This movie, like I said, takes place the day of the first film that came out in 2006. And there's a Twitter reference in this movie. Like, oh my gosh, did you see what's trending on Twitter? This massacre at the hotel? Bullshit. That Twitter does not exist. MySpace is like just getting started at this point. So the whole Twitter thing, like, that's such a fuck up in the writing department. How could you do that? What is she, like, a fucking, like, prescient, clairvoyant? She sees the future, like, this is going to be trending later. Trust me. When we're all dead. Like, 4 years from now when Twitter's popular. Like, Twitter, even when Twitter started, like, I don't know, 2009? maybe. It didn't get real popular until like what, 2011? I don't know. I hardly use Twitter. I think it's very convenient, and I know this is hard for horror writers, you know, like how do we explain the cell phones? Why aren't they being used? This morgue requires their employees to lock up their cell phones in a safe, which is just ridiculous and I think illegal. Like, there could be emergencies like this film. You know, you're being attacked by a 7-foot monster. That's an emergency. So you would need your cell phone. Like, what if something happens? What if you're a single mom and your kid got off soccer practice early? You gotta go pick them up. You don't know because you can't get contacted because your thing's in the safe and you're too busy dissecting a body. So it's just stupid. Like, that's not a work policy. If it is, quit your job because your boss is a dictator, and that's bullshit. That should not be legal at all. Taking your cell phone away from you, putting it in a safe, that just seems dangerous to me. It just felt like an easy write-off. It's like, alright, they don't have cell phones because they're locked in a safe. I like that this girl, Tamara, is giving backstory to the first film that just happened that night. Like, how she knows all the details like that. Like, and like when this movie starts and they're like at the morgue before the birthday party starts, you see the report on TV, the bodies are dragged there, and immediately this girl attends the party, and she's like knowing all this shit. Apparently she was really watching the news at that party, because the party sucks, right? As soon as this birthday party starts, it's like over pretty quick. But she's giving us backstory to the first film about how many people he killed and what happened, how his mom was crazy. So yeah, she knew a lot about Jacob Goodnight as she's straddling his body in a sexual manner. Like, she's just so turned on by this guy's dead body. And the boyfriend's watching, disgusted. Good for him. I'm glad that he's like me. Like, what the fuck? Me, I'd be like, it's over. You're crazy. It's over. I'm out. But yeah, she's straddling his body. But then to make matters worse, I guess she's very fucking drunk. She has to be. But that must have been pretty quick, because the party just started. So how is she that drunk to do this? She kisses Jacob Goodnight's dead body. It's just ridiculous. So ridiculous. And also, just like I said, like, the party doesn't even need to be a birthday party. I mean, that was just the explanation to get the cannon fodder in there. But the party is, like, over in an instant before they even, like, chug one beer down. They all split up. Her friends, 2 of them split off immediately to go have sex. And the other 2 just go out in the hallway. And Danielle Harris makes this big scene in front of her friends, doesn't give a fuck, just ruining her own party. Seriously, it's just like unnecessary drama that doesn't do much for the film at all. Like, I don't care about these characters. And it just feels stupid. Like, all these sex scenes, you know, they just feel forced because, you know, it has to be like that horror cliche. We gotta have sex in this movie. And it's just dumb. Like, how selfish are these friends that they don't give a fuck about Amy no more? It's her birthday party, and I know she's spoiling it by yelling at her brother about, you know, I know what's best for me, not you. The brother's just trying to, you know, be a good brother. She's not, you know, respecting that at all. Then just storms off, ruins her own party. But before that ever happened, her 2 friends already split off to go have sex near, you know, the dead bodies, which is just fucking weird. And then you got the Ashley girl from Final Destination 3. She's flirting with Amy's brother, and he's like not into it at all. And his explanation is like that cliche, except reversed this time. It's like, you're just a sister to me. It's like, that's odd. Usually it's in movies, it's the opposite. Like, the girl will be like, well, you're just a brother to me. And it's like, no, I'm stuck in the friend zone. He was like putting her in the friend zone for only half a second, because she immediately jumps on him and starts making out with him, and he immediately caves in. So I guess he was just lying, which makes me ask, why? If you were okay with making out with her, why didn't you just do it? Why do you have to put on this fake game of like, I'm just so badass that I don't even want to get laid. I'm just that badass. It just feels stupid. Because, like, seriously, and that would be rape. Like, I hate this double standard. Imagine if that was reversed, and a girl was like, you're just a brother to me, and then the guy was like, and just started making out with her, but then she still caved in too, like this guy. I don't know. That would not be viewed the same way. So, double standards. I know, I'm just joking. I'm not really pissed off. I'm just nitpicking the film, just being a jackass. Alright, so don't yell at me in the comments below. So, but yeah, that is a double standard. If you can't admit there's double standards, then you're living in the fantasy world. I already said this before, off-camera kills. Stupid. Why we got that? This is See No Evil Part 2. Sequels up the gore, usually. This one lowers it, so downgrade. I felt it odd that Tamara like conveniently has a bunch of matches on her when the power goes out in that room, or just the light gets flicked off by Jacob Goodnight. She has a few matches. I mean, it's a good scene. It's it's one of the most suspenseful ones in this movie. But I was just like, why does she have matches on her? Why not just a cell phone or a lighter or a flashlight? She has matches. This movie has stupid flashbacks to the first film sprinkled throughout almost the entirety of the film. Even like when little things are happening, there'll still be like a little brief flashback for like 2 frames. And it's like, why? If you're watching See No Evil 2, I assume you've seen the first one, therefore you don't need to be reminded of it. I love how the brother, he sees this entire wall and table of tools, and the only thing he decides to pilfer is the scalpel. He steals the scalpel, that's it. It's like, all this stuff's too big and useful, so I'm gonna grab the scalpel because it's useless. Why can't they just leave the fucking morgue? You know? Seriously, like and where did all these chains come from? Like, when they first encounter, Jacob Goodnight, they don't just immediately leave. Like, it should be easy. Half the people in this cast work fucking there, so why can't they just get the fuck out? Immediately. It shouldn't be that hard to escape a morgue. How many entrances and exits are there? There should be quite a few. And it's not like it's a fucking prison or insane asylum with bars on the windows. If the door's not available, there should be a window available. It's just ridiculous how they're stuck in there. I don't buy it. I don't understand where Kane is getting all these chains to like hook up all these doors and seal them shut towards the end of the film. Once it's definitely too late to go out through a door, he just has all these chains everywhere. It's like, is this a chain store or a morgue? And I hate how they just keep like running and then stopping just to talk for a while. It's like, keep running. It happens at least 3 times in this movie. They'll run away from the guy, go about, in the next room, 20, 30 feet, and then they'll just stop. And they'll have like a 30-second conversation. It's like, why? You're just asking to be murdered. And I don't understand why Kane is so attached to wanting to kill these 2 people. I guess it's just because it's a horror movie. You gotta have body count. But Kane leaves the morgue, and the other 2 are still trapped inside. Why he's even sticking around to look for these 2 people, I guess he just really wants to kill them. And Kane teleports in this movie. I swear to God, this must have been bad editing or I missed something because, here's Kane's room and here's the room they're in. They leave, go this way, and then Kane's exiting a door like that. It's like, how the fuck did he get there? Also, Kane just knows where they are all the time. It's like, they established that there's like thousands of rooms and quite a few floors to this morgue. It's a pretty big morgue. And all these doors locked, except for a few. But even if you're in Kane's mindset as the killer, you would be like, oh, this door's locked. Maybe they're in there. But I would have just liked to see like a shot of him going down the hall, kicking every door open just in case that was one. But he just goes in specific rooms and knows that they're in there somehow. Like throughout the whole movie, just every room he goes in, he lingers in there because he just knows they're in there. It's like bullshit. Like I said, he's immortal. He gets embalmed with embalming fluid, and it like pushes all his blood out his eye, and you see like the blue blood going, or not blood, blue, embalming fluid going through his veins. It's a pretty cool scene, but it's stupid because he's still alive. You got formaldehyde going through your body. That's not healthy at all. You should be dead. And then I like how, the final boy, he doesn't notice a 7-foot tall monster in his back seat when he's driving out of that place. Get the fuck out of here. And then this movie just refuses to fucking end. It spends like 3 minutes recapping the entire film that you just watched, going from shot to shot to shot. It reminded me of Halloween, where you see all the locations where Michael was at throughout the film, except in this one it shows you like shots of every body in like every room, every hallway, every weapon that was on the ground for like a good 3 minutes. You're like, when is this movie just gonna fucking like surcease, end? And then it finally ends. I'm like, oh, thank you. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a terrible film. I've seen terrible. But it's just like, why isn't this movie ending? Seriously, like, I don't need all these shots. Maybe a few, and I would be like, oh, it's like Halloween. But the fact that they gave me like 30 shots, I was like, all right, this is too much. You're overdoing it. One last thing I want to point out is that Kane speaks a lot more in this one, and it just feels cheesy. It doesn't, like, what he's saying. It's like, I see the sin in you. And it's like, well, why can't you fucking see the sin in yourself? He looks in the mirror a few times. He should be quite disgusted with himself. I felt like they're trying to do something with his character, because there's actually moments where he's like, no, I'm not going to do it. But then he does it anyway. So it's like, oh, you're attempting to do something, but then you just scrapped it. So it's like, well, that was pointless. He didn't need to do that at all. I prefer my killers to be a little bit more quiet, like Michael Myers. So the fact that he was talking way more in this one than he did in the first one, I was like, I'm not crazy about that. But anyways, my final thoughts are, this isn't a terrible movie. It just felt kind of generic, and it just kind of got repetitive with all the running down the hallways. This hallway, that hallway, this dungeon. The basement to this morgue looks like a dungeon. It even has like metal bar cage, like sliding doors, and it's like, is it a dungeon or a morgue? So I don't know. They're just going for that creepy atmosphere, and there is good atmosphere. There is some good acting in this movie. A couple of good, decent kills. And Kane is a pretty good, intimidating bad guy. So it's not all terrible. I don't want you to get the wrong impression. I just like the bitch. It's what I do. People like it. People always tell me in the comments, they're like, I like it when you go on rants, or I like when you just shit on movies. I don't want always just shit on movies. I want to see movies that I like, that I can actually talk about and be like, this was fucking awesome. I love it. No one wants to watch a bad movie on purpose, alright? We want to see it good. But anyways, I'll shut up now. This movie was decent, just slightly decent. It has some factors that are good. So if you are a horror fan, I say when it comes to See No Evil, maybe just check this one out at Redbox. And the Mr. Hat Award for Best Kill is gonna go to Tamara, who gets her neck sliced wide open on the side, and then she even like tilts her head and it like opens up a lot more. You think her head's like gonna fall off, but it doesn't. It's pretty gnarly, some digital CGI effects in there, but it's done pretty well. It's practical and it's CGI. It's mixed. And the Mr. Twig Award for Worst Kill is gonna take your pick. I'm gonna go with Carter, because that was just lame. And those are my thoughts on See No Evil Part 2, directed by the Soska twins, if I'm saying that right. Let me know what you thought about this movie in the comments below. Is it better than the original? I think it's shot better. It has better cast, better acting. It's a little bit better, but the gore is better than the first one, but that doesn't necessarily make it a better film. This was probably a better made film than the first one, in my opinion. But let me know what you thought in the comments below. Hit this like button if you want to. I'm not going to force you to. And you can follow me on social media if you would like to see pictures of my cat or something, or me on the toilet. I don't know how personal I'll get with my Instagram. But anyways, also hit that subscribe button in about 5 seconds to see more. And until next time, auf Wiedersehen.